Oh, um, it's important for advocates of nonviolence to avoid falling into this trap of enemy thinking. It's a challenge because there, there are a lot of things to get angry about, and managing anger is a big part of being able to practice nonviolence. As an example, let's take white supremacy. A lot of us are infuriated by white supremacy and uh, tempted to really see it as evil and the people who represent it as evil. And that may feel exactly right in the moment, but it's an example of enemy thinking, and it can create pitfalls for us in our thinking that are really counterproductive. So let me pursue this a little bit. I'm going to claim that white supremacy is not due to evil white people. And as you can see, I'm a white person. Um, I don't. I hope that this isn't self-serving, and I hope you'll follow my argument and see where it leads. Dr. King, back in the civil rights movement, said that the white segregationists, who were his opponents, were not evil, that they were victims of racism too. And he and Bayard Rustin, on more than one occasion, said essentially, we've got to save these white people because after what they've done, they're going to go to hell. And um, we've not only got to save ourselves from this system, but we've got to save them. That's about 25% joke and about 25%, sincere belief on his part, I think. Now, to expand on the idea that white supremacy comes from somewhere that is not evil, but involves real processes, naturalistic processes that we can understand scientifically. Let's consider some facts from geography, psychology, and human development and put them together. First, geography. The continent of Europe has two characteristics that are important for talking about the history of racism. First of all, Europe is at northern latitudes on the planet Earth, and so it doesn't receive sunlight as directly as the tropics do. It has longer periods of dark, especially in the winter when the days are short, and the sun reaches those latitudes at an angle. And what that adds up to biologically is that it's more challenging for the human body to make vitamin D. And one of the ways that vitamin D production can be preserved and maximized is by having lighter skin. So lighter skin was selected for in northern latitudes. And we can see this gradation of skin color from north to south pretty clearly in the populations of the world. The second fact of geography in Europe that is important, I think, is that Europe has a very complex, irregular coastline. And the nature of the coastline in Europe favors the development of shipbuilding. So in broad view, white people are building ships in Europe. And of course, eventually they take them out across the ocean to other continents. They establish colonies. They exploit those colonies economically. They develop slavery as part of that economic system. So the age of exploration and colonization, military dominance of other countries, and slavery is part of recent history. It's part of the last 500 years of our human world. Now let's turn to psychology. Imagine that you're one of those colonizers. Throughout this history, we've heard dissenting voices about slavery. We've had people saying slavery is wrong, but then we've had economic forces favoring the use of slavery to create wealth. So from a psychologist's point of view, that's a classic cognitive dissonance situation. In many people's minds, there are these two dissonant thoughts. One, slavery is wrong. Second, I am a slave trader, or I am a person who benefits from slavery. And cognitive dissonance reduction means rationalizing dissonant thoughts in such a way as to preserve some amount of self-respect and to create some consonance between these ideas, some agreement between these ideas that people can live with. So slavery and that economic system is rationalized with the thought that, well, these are inferior people anyway. And in any case, I treat them well. I treat my slaves well, or something like that. Thoughts that soften the blow of slavery become part of a person's thinking. And they include the idea that I'm superior, you're inferior. That's what makes slavery natural, and so on and so on. So those attitudes, the prejudice, discrimination, oppression based on racial lines, I think develops in that way. Let's go to human development, and in particular to the idea of intergenerational transmission of ideas and beliefs and values. Things like religion and politics and many other attitudes run in families, and parents teach values to their children. Nowadays, they may not be teaching directly that people of that other race are inferior, or we are biologically superior to them, but they may be saying those people just want to steal our stuff. Stay away from them. They are different, and you don't want to get close to them. I think intergenerational transmission of ideas like that is very common. And when students talk to me at the college level about how their college education is changing attitudes that they develop through their family, I often hear stories about what parents told their children about the relations between races. It has not been very long since the Civil War in the United States. The Civil War was fought over whether slavery would be preserved or whether it should be ended. There was a man who just passed away recently in my neighborhood. His name was Warren Dorsey. Yeah, he was about 100 years old. And he was quite famous in his last decade for telling stories about growing up as an African-American person in our county, and what it was like when the schools were segregated and so on. Well, Warren had the midwife when he was born in 1920 was his grandmother, And his grandmother had been born a slave. And he used to point that out in a lot of his presentations to community groups. And that was a bit shocking because it made the Civil War times and the times just before the Civil War seem much closer to the present than they had thought. And those times were really close, less than 2 human lifetimes. And within that short span of historical time, a lot of these old racial attitudes just have not had time to be challenged in the family. They haven't had a chance to change all that much. But racial attitudes come from that history. They don't come from inherent evil in the people who have those attitudes. Now, nonviolence has been developed not by the colonizers, but by the powerless, by the people who were oppressed during that period, during those centuries of colonization. And nonviolence has really come into focus just in the last 100 or 150 years. It is a way of getting people's needs met when they are not powerful, when they are poor, when they are not the dominant group in society. Now, in an increasingly multicultural world, I think nonviolence is kind of a gift. It offers a sane alternative to racism for everyone. And in an angry world, it offers a framework for managing the anger that we have toward other people in a more constructive way. So that's my take on the topic of racism and nonviolence, at least to this extent, the ideas that are covered today. If you have found this interesting, of course, please subscribe to this channel, and please give the video a like. Thank you.